Yo! It is I, the belt-taking, back-breaking, soul-shaking, C-H-A-M-P of the D, Joseph the Champ Stones! Welcome to Movie Madness. Today, my guest is my man Casey, and we got the what's his name? Jarrett?
Are you done yelling into the microphone?
My man, yeah, I'm so excited today, guys.
Headphones on?
Today, we have the genre I have been waiting to do. The MCU. I am absolutely stoked. Oh, God, this is, well, if you know what I'm saying, I'm ready to go.
Yeah, for someone who
So, Casey, how's it going, buddy?
I'm doing fantastic.
So, Casey, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, thanks for coming, Casey. We appreciate it.
Garrett, we got company.
Just
Can
stop.
you shut your mouth, please? Stop talking. Here, Garrett. Quiet time, please.
Don't start with the bell.
Tell us a little bit about yourself, Casey.
Not much to know besides the fact that I'm just a huge Marvel fan. I've seen literally every Marvel movie since probably Tobey Maguire, Spider-Man 2000, early
nice.
2000s. So like, I'm pretty knowledgeable in this area of
In
film.
this
I would
category?
say.
Cool.
Yeah.
Who's your favorite Marvel character?
I'm gonna be that guy. I'm a huge Spider-Man fan.
Ain't nothing wrong with that, dude.
Yeah,
Like,
Nothing wrong with that.
now you say Spider-Man. There's about 1.5 million incarnations of Spider-Man. Like, who is your Spidey?
This is where I get a lot of hate from people.
I'm not gonna hate you.
I get a lot of hate from my friends and everything like that. I am a huge Andrew Garfield Spider-Man fan. I stand by that.
Well, personally, my opinion, and so you can actually start talking now, Garrett.
I liked, like we discussed yesterday, I liked his incarnation. I wish they would have just started with him as he was older, since they already did like the high school, college, and then young adult thing with the original 3 Spider-Man movies.
Right.
I wish they would have started with him as a young adult, kind of already being Spider-Man, kind of the way they already did it in the MCU, yet they put him younger.
See, the way I look at it is, I feel like Tobey Maguire was awesome Peter Parker. Like, he was like that perfect like 60s version of the Peter Parker. But his Spider-Man wasn't Spider. He's very, very stiff. He wasn't acrobatic. Where you have Andrew Garfield, who his Spider-Man was that acrobatic. Like, it was like it was like that spectacular Spider-Man. But his Peter Parker, like, that was the cool, like, he was way too cool to be
He's almost too
Peter
cool to be,
Parker.
yeah.
Like, he's skateboarding, he's just chill. Where I feel like they took the two of those, they're like, all right, well, they took what they did right with those two, and Tom Holland is, in my opinion,
He's
perfection.
my favorite.
Now, what I was actually asking, like, who is your favorite Marvel character?
Is it still Spider-Man? Like even throughout the comics.
Now, if
period?
it's Spider-Man, like, is it Miles Morales? Is it Peter Parker? Like,
no, I would say probably Doctor Strange is.
oh
my
wow,
favorite.
that's not a normal.
I've actually
I like
never
that.
heard anyone say that, and that's awesome.
That I respect the shit out of that.
I'm a huge like magic user type fan, so that's like.
Wait, do you partake in?
I wasn't gonna get into it on the show, but I do.
Are you a Wiccan?
I do currently go to classes to learn how to basically teleport and do all that sort of thing. It's pretty crazy. But
yeah, we'll meet up after the show. I got something. So can you do like the?
Oh yeah, I can't
spin
show
rings?
it on. I signed a whole thing
Gotcha.
away.
I feel you,
I
bro.
can't show it on screen.
Yeah,
but-
perfect.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
before we get started, let's
he needs that skill to beat the crap out of me more.
actually I'm looking at the monitor. We're missing the the sponsor feed on top there.
Yeah, I know it's giving me some problems.
So if
And
we
you know
can't
what?
see it,
And you know
let's
what?
shout them out.
I'm afraid to touch anything after that whole thing that happened last week.
I don't even want to talk. I'm still convinced that if it's not you, you're behind that shit.
How?
Let's let it go.
Your dude Z, who was on the D squad, came running from the other room to check, and he told you it wasn't me.
It wasn't you physically doing it here. That doesn't mean you were not behind it, okay? I still don't think that you 100% submitted to the fact that I am the champ. This is my show. This is my I'm starting to get pissed just talk. Anyways, Dippin Donuts.
Thank you. Just do the.
If you want coffee, if you want a donut, cruise down to Dippin. 2 locations in Rome, 1 location over there by the mall. Biggest donuts, the size of Garrett's giant-ass head. Best coffee in town.
For real.
If you need any kind of screen printing, anything seasonal sports, our buddy Freddie Marriott over there. Get yourself a D-Squad shirt. Get Wrestle Fandom shirt. You need anything done, do it. Rockin' Horse Tattoo. If you need a little ink, get it done over there by Big Apple. And without any further ado, me and my man Casey here, and with the help of Garrett, are going to do this MCU shit right now.
All right.
So let's rock it out. What's the first matchup we got? Ed Norton's The Incredible Hulk versus Iron Man 2.
Casey, you want to lead us off?
See, here's the thing.
You know what? I like when stuff starts like that.
I am not a fan of either of these movies.
Oh,
really?
So
go on.
Yeah, I am. I saw Hulk in theaters when I was very young. I was 9 years old, probably with my mom. And
Jeez, how old are you?
I'm 21 currently. Yeah.
We're old men, Joe.
Well, you're older than me, but like
Not by that much.
because I was just saying these came out what 2008.
They started in I think 08.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you don't like
crazy.
either one of these movies.
I mean, my bias goes to Iron Man 2 personally, just
Okay.
because I'm a big Iron Man fan. I think Robert Downey Jr.'s career.
Was literally saved.
Our
by
DJ
Iron Man.
literally is the reason we got what we got. Now, okay, Garrett, I'm gonna walk. I want you to walk through this with me because like this, I don't even know with this. So like, Hulk came out. What was it a month and a half after Iron Man came out?
Right.
And I'll be very, very honest with you. This movie itself, where it is flawed, wasn't a bad movie. To the fact where they've come back to things in this movie itself and retouched upon them, brought them back in, like with William Hurt's Thunderbolt Ross coming back in like Civil War and Endgame and Infinity War, up until the most recent Shang-Chi, bringing back Abomination.
Right.
Like so, like it's still canon, and it always kind of bothered me that the things that they had started in that movie, like with they teased the leader, they like everything with Betty and everything. So like even one of the what ifs when they did the alternate where they used Ruffalo's. Perfect, that works.
I'm just gonna flip back and forth. Sorry to interrupt, champ.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Like we're nothing without our sponsors, and we're nothing without my millions of fans out there. Like
I'll flip back when we need to.
Yeah, and it just
Back and forth.
like it was a great Hulk story, and as Edward Norton isn't my favorite Hulk. Like Ruffalo really is perfect for that role.
He really is so good at it.
Norton was better than Eric Bana, and like they teased Doc Samson in there. There's so much in that movie that they touched upon. Whereas with Iron Man 2, you had the introduction of Black Widow. Okay, like you had Iron Man. These two movies actually timeline wise happen at the same exact time.
Yeah,
like they're
same.
happening. Like even though they came out years apart, they're happening at the same exact time. And to be very honest, I know this is also an unpopular opinion. Iron Man 2 is my least favorite of the 3 Iron Men.
Really, it's actually my most favorite, and I will tell you exactly why.
Okay, go
2
ahead.
words: War Machine.
See,
Huge. I like War Machine from like the comics and from the cartoon way back when I was little.
Yeah.
More than I liked.
See, and
I ever liked Iron Man.
I think replacing Terrence Howard with Don Cheadle was a great move. Like
Genius.
And
I don't like Terrence Howard.
Just to me, Iron Man 2 was kind of like really kind of almost recycling Iron Man 1. Like, oh, look, the bad version of Iron Man again.
Right.
And then, what the hell's his name? Sam Rockwell's.
Yeah, what is it?
Hammer.
Justin Hammer. Oh, my God. Like, why hasn't he come back? Like, Sam Rockwell's performance, even though in the comics Justin Hammer is like an old dude, like, that version is absolutely, like, he plays that perfect. And, like, they touch upon Tony's alcoholism in this, which was very much downplayed in the MCU, which it was a very big thing in the late 80s, big part of his character. But, like, it just, I don't know. And, like, one of the fun facts about Iron Man 2 I do like is at the end where the hammer drone or whatever goes to, like, kill that little kid with the Iron Man mask on. The kid puts his hand up and, Tony comes in. They have retroactively put in canon that is Peter Parker. Okay?
Peter Parker, yeah.
But after doing that, my vote's going to go to Iron Man 2.
And mine as well.
No, mine not really. It was actually going to Incredible Hulk.
Really?
Yeah. Like I like that Hulk movie. But you guys you're both going Iron Man 2?
I would go Iron Man 2.
I'm going Iron Man 2. Like I said, War Machine 1 actually showing up, and then 2, being then cast.
Like I'll be very honest, I'm not going to be mad at really any of all these movies. Some are definitely better than others, but like I love like this. Like you've never seen anything like the MCU, and you never will again. Even these later phases and everything now, it's so mainstream now, but you'll never see such a universe. Like
No.
it's
and it's still evolving
right
as we
Yeah.
speak.
right. And
That's the
The
crazy.
introduction of the shows and everything,
Yeah,
which I love.
so my kids, for example, like were born after, and like my kids love all these movies and everything, but they're getting more excited about like right now, like to them, like, oh yeah, like there was Captain America, but like their Captain America is Sam, you know what I mean? And like they love Spider-Man, but because of where they've grown up, it's not Peter Parker. Like, even though they know who Peter Parker is, like Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse is like one of their favorite. Like, they love Miles Morales. Like, and it's so, to me, it's so cool to just like, depending on where you come in is where you get into it. It's absolutely amazing.
Yeah, we got Let's Go Brandon on here, and he's saying his favorite is Iron Man 3, which is on the other side of the board over here. If you'll see right there.
Yeah, I tried to break these brackets up, kind of like. So like here, even you have kind of like the original movies. Other ones you have kind of like the sequels and like standalone. Like this one, besides Civil War, was kind of like the standalone stuff. So I tried to kind of break it up so you didn't have like where you're having lead away kind of. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So now we got first Avenger versus the first Thor.
All right. For me, I think this is an easy one.
This is an easy one for me.
For me, it's Captain America because I honestly, like, the first Thor is probably my least favorite of all of the MCU. Like, I'm not saying it's a bad movie. I'm not saying I don't like it. I'm just saying if I was to shuffle them in the order of these 24 movies, it would be at the bottom.
And with that, if you want to go to the board, that I 100% agree with you because Thor, it's a good movie.
Yeah,
and like
it's
I feel bad because it's up against all these other movies. Yeah. Like, it establishes a lot. Like, but I personally believe that Chris Hemsworth was very, very underutilized until Taika Waititi took over with Thor Ragnarok. Like,
absolutely.
He's a beautiful man who's really a brilliant actor who can
so
hit all the spectrum, but they were just using him as oh, I am Thor, I smash things, and oh no, Jane, I love you. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
and it wasn't until he started doing other things where somebody like Taka like utilize that. So
Yeah.
I 100 because the first Avenger really like, and especially canonly, like is the first movie. Like it
Right.
sets everything up, and from Winter Soldier to the Avengers themselves, like. And it's that first seed to give us this beautiful flower that is the MCU.
Yeah, it's aptly named too, the first Avenger.
Yeah,
you know,
right.
because while it was, if I'm not wrong, it was the last movie to come out. Yeah, it
In
was
phase
the-
one, correct.
In phase one, so then it came out, and
Yeah.
then Avengers came out. Yeah, it was the
'Cause-
first
'cause the
movie to
last
have it, so
three-
it set up everything.
The last
It
3
was-
minutes of that movie was him waking up present day, like really leading up to the Avengers.
Yeah,
like,
I think the
the
same
after
scene
the
is
yeah.
in Avengers, isn't it?
No, but the after credit
something-
scene for Winter Soldier was actually a trailer for the Avengers.
Right.
You know, like
Yeah.
so. Now, Case, you were going Winter Soldier or not Winter Soldier?
I was going to go
First Avenger?
Captain America with this
Yeah.
solely, and this I don't think we brought this up, but I am a sucker for period pieces. I
Oh, okay.
love old war movies and things like that. So that already had me.
So does
Right.
that mean you collect tampons?
No,
Really?
Oh.
no,
You're gonna go with the guests like that?
no. I can't say I
Jeez,
do.
man.
Oh, sorry, you set
What
it
is
up. I did not
wrong
get off
with
the
you?
tee. So let's drop down here to
Terrible word pun, champ.
Captain America: Civil War versus the recent Black Widow.
All right. So, does anyone have any, or do you mind? Does anyone mind if I? Do you have anything about this, Casey or Joe? Or do
Oh,
you mind
I
if start
actually
off?
I have a lot I have a lot to say about Black Widow.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, Black Widow, I thought was a good standalone movie. I do kind of wish it came earlier. Even if it was everything it was still going to be, I wish it had happened prior to.
I wish
coming
it
out to
had.
Endgame.
I agree. I wish it would have come out where in the timeline it is placed right after Civil War, pre-Infinity War, pre-Endgame.
Yeah.
Because like you knew bits and pieces of Natasha's history.
Yep.
Like things have been alluded to. Like if you ever watched Agent Carter, the second season of Agent Carter touches a lot about the original Red Room and everything. And it's just like I always thought like she was a wonderful character that never really got all the dues because very much like Hawkeye, she's a normal person with these larger than life powered heroes and is going to toe to toe and holds her own. And like I really didn't have
It's vital.
I really didn't have huge hopes for that movie, and I was very, very surprisingly thoroughly entertained, thoroughly touched, and like the end credits scene with her sister at her grave, and she does the little whistle and everything, and she doesn't get it in return, really, really pulled on my heartstrings, and like I thought it was great. But Civil War, the introduction of Tom Holland's Spider-Man, which they hid in all promotional stuff,
Right.
you have.
Black Panther.
Right, introduction of Black Panther. You have the first real like team up between Bucky and Captain America. You have when that whole airport scene is literally a comic book splash page come to
it's a dream.
life. Like
It's a comic book created dream.
Like it truly. Like I remember being in theaters and being like, all right, I can get in a car accident and die on the way home right now because my life is now complete. You
Yep.
know, like, and just everything about that movie, like the way they tied things in, like, so Bucky killed Tony's parents, like, in the reason that this is all coming to light because of everything that happened in Age of Ultron, like they take all these threads and be like, oh, let's tie this up here and look at that. We're gonna just and you had like that fight scene at the end where Tony versus Steve in there. And you got Tony with the shield, or Steve with the shield, and he's just, he lets Tony go, and he's like, you can have the, like, it just, so like I have to go Civil War. Like as great of a movie as Black Widow is, you can't, like, Civil War like had everything that you want. Like that's that issue 100 of a comic book that you've been reading for 4 years, waiting the climax, and like you don't have Infinity War Endgame without Civil War.
No.
Like,
Right.
It's the first time Ant-Man sees, really, besides him and Falcon in the first Ant-Man movie, like where he meets her, like Captain America, like, you know.
Captain America, sir. Hi, sir. You know.
Black Widow, you're cool too, but like it's Captain America, you know, like I have to go Civil War.
Yeah, I was very excited to see Black Widow, especially after everything with the pandemic delaying all these movies. We finally get to see Black Widow, and I thought it was pretty good. And I know it's not on here, but then I see Shang-Chi, and I'm like,
it's actually pronounced Shang-Chi.
Shang-Chi.
Yes.
That blows Black Widow out of the water, in my opinion. Right. And then now you're putting that up against Civil War, and it's kind of like, I mean, she didn't really have a chance in this here, I think.
Right.
Civil War is just by far. I mean, why trade a movie with one hero when you can have almost all of them at the time?
Right.
In Civil War, I think it's perfect.
So while I love Civil War, and it is also my pick. Anyway, so it's, it's 3-0 on that one. But considering how much I loved both the first Captain America and Winter Soldier, I almost felt like, while it was genius, considering it's a shared universe, to use the third Captain America essentially as like an Avengers versus Avengers movie, I was still kind of like, but his other two movies are so good, and you're making this one an ensemble movie. So like, as much as I love it, that is my only gripe, but it still gets outweighed by how, like you said, how good everything is. That airport scene, the end scene, how genius of a bad guy, what's his name is? Zemo is, it was just
such a good bad guy. In fact, he was a supporting character.
Yeah.
In the Falcon and Winter Soldier.
Yeah,
show.
which again,
which even makes it like puts more on his character, and makes his character that much better. Like
that show was done so well.
All those shows are so
good. Yeah, they were all good.
So you're going Civil War.
I'm also Civil War on that. So.
Now, this next one, it's a very easy pick for me, but I want to. So we got Doctor Strange versus Captain Marvel. My pick is going to be for your boy Stephen Strange, but I want to is Captain Marvel it's better than Thor, but it really was like a Thor type movie for me.
Right.
Like her character really hasn't had enough screen time in the whole universe as itself. Like it's very, very minimal. And Monica Rambeau has more actual screen time in the MCU than Captain Marvel herself. Yeah. I did like the whole kind of Fury and Coulson origin thing. Like I like how they teased how he lost his eye till they showed how he lost his eye. It did tie into Infinity War because this came out after of the retro pager thing, and like it was a good movie. Like if it very much like Thor, if it wasn't in the MCU, I think it would get more credit for where it's due. And I love the '90s feel about it. Like the whole Stan Lee Mallrats thing, was absolutely fantastic. It just
fallen in a blockbuster.
Yeah, right. Like
it's genius.
Like,
just a tiny little nod.
Like the soundtrack and everything is from when we were kids, which was in the '90s. So like it was great. Like like you were born what 2001.
2000.
Oh, great. So, like, Jesus.
Yeah.
But Doctor Strange, like, I love, like, Benedict Cumberbatch, I'm a big fan of his Sherlock Holmes. I think is the best version of Sherlock Holmes. And I love him as an actor. And the things they added to the Doctor Strange mythos, like the sling rings themselves, like, which, very, very simple thing, but makes everything make sense, and using those shields and just taking him from the jerk off that he was to on the precipice of being the Sorcerer Supreme. Like it's a fantastic movie. Like it definitely outshines Captain Marvel.
Yeah, I agree there.
Yeah, I with this here, Doctor Strange is obviously the pick. You mentioned Captain Marvel not being able to see much of her character yet. I'd go as far as saying what character. She doesn't really stand out for me that much as a hero, but
It's more of a power set.
Yeah, because they haven't really given her much time for her like actual personality to really be the standout.
Because most of the time in Captain Marvel, it was that I don't know who I am.
Yeah.
And she's being manipulated, and then she finds out who she is, and then she's like, okay, I'm going out to space.
Yeah.
And then she's gone for 20 years. Like,
Exactly.
Yeah.
We haven't really gotten to see that.
And you don't really see her relationships with anybody. Like, yeah, and I feel like they... And Brie Larson, I feel like is great as Carol Danvers.
She's a really good actress. They need to give her shine
They need to add layers to that
because I feel like they're almost like punishing her for like the online backlash that's happening. But it's like that. I think that's the only part of the MCU where the story, like I'll agree to like what you're saying, where like the story is lacking, and you're letting someone who can act it, not act it.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's almost akin to what you said about like Thor. Like you're not using this person who is a perfect
to
actor
their full
for this
for the
thing
full potential. Yeah.
to do. Like if you've read, I don't know, like did you actually read the comics like where she is, and especially like the Civil War II?
What did you just ask me?
Just making sure here, just
Bro.
making sure you're up on everything.
Dude, get out of here.
So like I've seen her. I've watched her in a ton of other movies. She can absolutely act
Like Kong Skull
that
Island,
part.
she was fantastic.
Yeah,
Like,
she can absolutely act that part. They need to let her. They need to let her do it.
and with the Miss Marvel TV show coming out, the Marvels sequel movie that they're coming out, I really hope that and actually it was dropped yesterday. It's rumored that Monica Rambeau is going to get her own Disney Plus series also. And
That's fine.
I feel like so now you have the platforms to add those depths and those layers to Captain Marvel, and I just hope that they do and they give her due on it.
Yeah.
So next one also is very, very easy for me. Guardians of the Galaxy versus Ant-Man. Now, as great of a movie as Guardians of the Galaxy is, it obviously beats Ant-Man.
Yeah, I was nervous. You made me nervous. You really made me nervous there.
Ant-Man was up against like something else, I feel like it'd move again. I almost feel like it was unfair to go against.
And like
the first Guardians, like I like the first Guardians better than I did the second.
I'm absolutely there with you, but like. But you got to give Ant-Man
what we got.
You got to give the Ant-Man its due though. Paul Rudd,
great.
And like I loved the fact that they didn't go Hank Pym Ant-Man, and I love the fact that they didn't like. All right, we're gonna call him Scott Lang, but he's gonna be Hank Pym, and like combine the character kind of thing.
Yeah.
I like the fact that they flat out was like, all right, we're going Scott Lang. But Hank Pym's going to be here. We're going to touch upon everything. We're going to, because
very smart.
Something a lot of people who watch the movies and everything. Tony Stark was not the creator of Ultron. That was Hank Pym. And Hank Pym was one of the founding Avengers, and that was always something back to Phase 1 that kind of like sucked for me because I'm like, you don't have Ant-Man and Wasp in the original founding Avengers. But I thought the first Ant-Man movie absolutely did it justice.
It was
the
great.
Michael Pena character in there is one of the funniest aspects. And
you know what? The fact that they didn't have a featurette where he describes
the whole MCU,
Iron Man up to Infinity, up to everything, up until Endgame. When Endgame came out, was a crime.
Oh, absolutely.
They didn't do that. Let him talk about like Iron Man, Hulk, Iron Man,
and
and then this happened, and then that had he would have killed that. That would have been one of the most. If they could have even done that and put it out on YouTube and then just watch it like be like
or an extra scene on a DVD.
Billion views. You know what I mean? Like it's a crime that it didn't happen.
And the thing about Ant-Man that I truly love about Paul Rudd, besides he can be anything in my opinion, and I will watch it. But what I loved about it was Scott Lang was that everyman. Like, he's literally somebody who's not been involved in any of this kind of stuff, kind of falls into being a superhero. It'd be like if you and I were given pin particles and all of a sudden we could shrink down and we could talk to ants. And he always has that sense of bewilderment when he's interacting with these guys, even when he's fighting Yellow Jacket and all this stuff, doing the right thing. He still steps back. He's like, Captain America, he's blown away about it, as I feel like any of us would be if we were put in those shoes. And I like having that perspective. He's not a super soldier. He's not a spy. He's not a radioactive monster. He's not a billionaire creator. He's
a thief.
He's this dude who's like an electrician who fell down on his times and started stealing shit, and now he kind of fell into being a superhero, and now he's like, hey, Cap,
and also while we're talking about the character himself, also was the best part of the airport scene in Civil War.
Oh, absolutely.
I remember being in the theater and he did the giant man thing, and everyone was like, oh, because I don't think anyone was expecting it.
No,
really,
no.
I didn't think they were gonna pull that trigger. I thought that maybe they'd save it for something else.
But then you have Guardians of the Galaxy. Guardians of the Galaxy. And so, I was aware of who the Guardians of the Galaxies were because I've been reading these comics since before I could touch myself, and it taking, they've kind of done that all the way through the MCU because of the rights they had of what movies they could do. Even Iron Man, Thor, Captain America were kind of B characters, but they took a D level team with Star-Lord, Drax, Rocket, people nobody really knew unless you were a fan, and they made them gold. And the casting, Chris Pratt as Star-Lord, and they honestly kind of leaned into Chris Pratt's personality for Star-Lord in this, because Star-Lord's more of the stereotypical hero originally, and in the comics they've kind of leaned into the more of the Han Solo-esque vibes of him, but just everything about that movie and the way they tied it into everything else going in the MCU, but we've only been seeing what's been going on Earth really, and kind of showing us that there's this whole other world out there. And Batista as Drax is
let's face it. I know he wants to be an actor, right? But his acting skills aren't super fantastic. He's been good in a lot of stuff. He was good in
he's been well cast.
Blade Runner, he was good in that spot. A few other things. But to be someone who is supposed to be dry as cardboard. It's
the perfect role for him.
Deliver deadpan lines, nothing can go over my head, and my reflexes are too fast to catch it.
Right.
He's perfect.
I will kill Thanos.
He's perfect.
The thing about this movie too, and he the climax of this movie, the way they saved the galaxy, is a dance off.
Yeah.
He literally, you know what I mean? And, the soundtrack to this first Guardians movie, too, is, it's literally all the music my parents played in the house growing up. And just, naming his ship the Mulatto because he had a crush on Alyssa Milano from Who's the Boss from when he was a kid. The Walkman cassette player. It's everything about that movie is just... It's perfect, and it's such a great introduction to these characters who play such a pivotal role later on, and it sets up Peter Quill as being, like Ego's son and stuff, because like how else did he grab the Infinity Stone?
Right.
I'm guessing we're going Guardians here, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, 100%. 100% on that one.
Okay. So then we got, arguably, in my opinion, the worst MCU movie with Thor: The Dark World versus Iron Man 3, which a lot of people kind of give a lot of shit. And I personally like Iron Man 3 better than Iron Man 2 because it doesn't follow the formula. Like, for being an Iron Man movie, you have very limited time with Tony in the Iron Man armor.
Right.
And what I love about Iron Man 3 is Tony almost died in Avengers. Like, he literally was seconds away of dying. And, like, very real, the PTSD behind that. And, like, him becoming super obsessed with, I got to save the world. I got to create all these armors and everything, which kind of leads into Age of Ultron.
It does, yeah.
Like, wanting to put armor around the world. Like, and just seeing him, like, just not, like, one of the most confident people in the world being broken the way he was. And I like how they've I always thought the Ben Kingsley Mandarin, like, not being the Mandarin thing was a great thing. And I like how they've
I thought it was genius. Personally.
I like how they've kind of cleaned that up with Shang-Chi.
Yes.
And because the 10 Rings has been since Iron Man 1. And to the most latest movie that came out, the 10 Rings are still playing a part in the mythos of the MCU. Where Thor: The Dark World, it didn't do it for me. I thought aesthetically, I liked the way how Thor, now he's got like kind of like the braid. It looked a little bit more grittier. It just, the whole movie, and I've watched it a few times, like, since it's come out, but like I'm there and I'm just kind of like yawn, like, ugh, like, okay, like, I'll watch it, like, it has some, like, you got Tom Hiddleston's Loki is perfection, and the movie itself, it's just like something that I feel like they just really, really dropped the ball on. Like, the plot is great to a certain extent, but the whole movie itself is just kind of like, it stays at 30 miles an hour, never accelerates, never decelerates, and just is like, okay, this is what's going on. Oh, look, we're recycled. And Iron Man 3, I felt had that emotional roller coaster. Like, you could feel like what Tony's going through.
Yeah.
And like the use of the extremis concept, I thought was really, really cool there. You Happy almost dies, like, and the Harley Keener character, which they bring back in the funeral scene in Endgame. Like, I thought Iron Man 3 is the better movie in this, just because of it wasn't your typical Iron Man adventure movie. Like, it went for a more dramatic, a little bit darker take on it all. And like, you had the Iron Patriot armor. Like, you establish Rhodey more as like that hero that he becomes later on. So my vote would be Iron Man 3.
Yeah, I would go with Iron Man 3 as well. It's probably my least favorite Iron Man movie. But that being said, Thor: The Dark World is one of the greatest movies I've ever. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
I was about to go grab the garbage can and come out here and stop
Casey
you out.
Twisting up the chair.
No, Dark World. I think that was the MCU movie that made me start like contemplating skipping some of the Marvel movies in theaters. Honestly, Iron Man 3. I really, really, like you mentioned, I really like the whole storyline with Tony having sort of like PTSD, and him focusing on trying to protect everybody and feeling he had that obligation. I think that really sets up his character that, like, from that point on, up until Endgame. But I think Dark World is it's one of those movies where it's just too forgettable. And it's definitely
generic. A filler. Like before, nowadays, where they only really did like 13 episodes of a series, where they were doing 20, 22 episodes of a series. Like I can remember watching Buffy, like growing up, and like there would be like 3 or 4 episodes where they're not really touching upon the big
overarching
season thing,
story.
and it's just like that filler episode, which the episode's great, and like it maybe like adds a little bit to it, but it's like if I miss it, it's not going to change the way I look at everything. And yes, it deals with one of the Infinity Stones, but like it's like you said, a forgettable.
I think you really only need to see the after credit scene in that to really go forward into like the main overarching story.
Yeah.
It's when he brings the stone to the collector. Yeah. So I think that yeah.
So, Garrett, your vote was Iron Man 3 too?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So now we got Spider-Man Far From Home versus Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2.
Oh no.
What's wrong, Casey? Lead it off.
You
got something? You guys
got something to say, kid.
Yeah, this is probably one of my more controversial opinions. I think Far From Home is awful, genuinely.
Wow.
I am a huge Spider-Man fan, like I've said.
I'm gonna see if I can change your opinion on this.
Hopefully, it pains me.
What didn't you like about Far From Home?
That's a loaded question. I went into the theater. I was so excited. Partially, it's my fault. I overhyped it for myself.
You can't. Once you get older.
Yeah.
And I don't mean to sound like an old man when I say this, but once you get older, you're like you have to go into like watching stuff with zero expectations. Period.
You literally have to go into the theater thinking like this movie is probably going to suck.
Right.
Because I know it doesn't. I feel like it doesn't happen as much now as it did when we were younger, Garrett. But like, I have been burned so many times riding the hype train.
Oh yeah.
Like there have been so many movies where I've been on that hype train. I've defended a movie before it comes out, and then I go like, so like me and Garrett both agree on one thing: that Die Hard is one of the greatest cinematic movies of all time.
Great film.
And when I went to the theaters to see that 5th Die Hard, I'm like, oh my God, they're finally introducing his son.
Finally.
This is going, like, he's going to take over the franchise. And then I see that movie.
It's terrible.
And I'm like,
I could have shot something better on my phone.
I wanted to go home.
I could have.
And ground myself. like that's what I wanted to do. Now, so like with Spider-Man Far From Home, I thought completely opposite of you. It was brilliant.
Okay.
Because with Far From Home, unlike the 5, 6 Spider-Man movies prior, you're taking Peter Parker out of New York City.
That is probably
so you're taking him out of New York City, and they introduced the multiverse without introducing the multiverse because it ended up being a sham on Mysterio's part. And I thought it was brilliant that you took the Mysterio character, who is really, for most part, is a C-level Spider-Man villain, tying him in to Stark Industries and creating this villain that
changed the game.
Because you had Peter, very similar to Iron Man 3, dealing with the PTSD of losing a father figure again. So like he's lost his parents, he's lost his real father, then he loses his surrogate father and Uncle Ben, and now he's losing his Superman father and Tony Stark. And he's, for the first time, especially as a superhero, he's on his own. And now he, like, all he wanted to do was, I want to have a summer to just not be a superhero. I want a summer to be a kid. I want to be what I'm supposed to be being, which in reality, what you're supposed to be being is Spider-Man. And now he's got these feelings for MJ, and he wants to explore all this. But he gets roped in to being who he's supposed to be. And why does he do that? Can you tell me why he does that? I can tell you why. Because with great power comes great responsibility, all right? And, like, he's got Nick Fury, who big reveal at the end, isn't Nick Fury. It's the Skrulls from Captain Marvel. Which
also then in the story explains why, like, because I think Nick Fury would have known that Mysterio was full of crap.
Exactly, and like
If he would have shot him in the face,
if you
right off
like
the bat.
you're kind of salty because you're dealing with your first burn on the hype train. But if you look at this movie, if you're looking at this
I'd
movie,
go farther than that.
if you look like that last fight scene with him versus Mysterio, and think about the ending of this. Like, you had J. Jonah Jameson make his MCU debut. You had he tells MJ and everything, and the movie ends with him being outed as Spider-Man. Like, beyond the grave, Mysterio twists that knife just a little bit more, and by the end of this movie, like, Peter is ready to be a standalone hero. Like, this movie is about him growing as not just Peter Parker, but as Spider-Man himself. And I think it's easily a top 10 MCU movie.
I do think story-wise, like cinematically, it's a great film. I think if this wasn't a Spider-Man film, I'd love it. My main issue with it, and it goes off in a bunch of different tangents. I'll try to make it concise. If I could retitle this movie, I would call it Iron Boy Far From Spider-Man, because this is, I mean, I think they've made one grave mistake when they brought in Spider-Man into this MCU, and that was tying him to the character of Iron Man too much. You mentioned with great power comes great responsibility. They haven't even brought that line in yet.
Right, but I feel like they haven't done that because it's been done to nauseum in those first two series, and I think you are going to get more of that in the Spider-Man sequel that comes out. See, and I disagree with you where you say that them tying Iron Man to Spider-Man, because by them doing that, they pretty much put training wheels on this ultimately 16-year-old kid.
Yeah.
And giving him a mentor first in Iron Man, and now in the next one, your boy Stephen Strange is going to act like that surrogate father.
Yeah.
But if you notice, in that first one, it's all about that suit. Where this one, he's got the suit for the end battle or whatever, but all that gets taken away. They start to introduce his spider sense. When he's off in England doing the stuff in England, he's just using that black spider suit with no upgrades or anything.
Right.
So, when you say Far From Spider-Man, I feel like he's more towards your normal kind of Spider-Man than he was in the first one, because he's utilizing more of his own powers instead of using the suit.
I feel like I want to agree with that, but at the same time, he doesn't do. I mean, if you watch closely what's happening in all the fight scenes that happen leading up until the London finale, he's not really doing much at all. He's doing these flips. He's trying to. I mean, obviously, he can't do anything against this fake. Everything that's going on there. But in my opinion, it's just. Maybe I'm just annoyed by the fact that they are taking such a long time with getting Spider-Man to that point that I love Spider-Man.
See, I like the fact
because
and I'm gonna chalk this up to you being a young kid. You're gonna learn it. It's about the journey, not being where you want to be. If you look at Peter Parker's journey from Civil War up until where we're I'm sure you've seen the trailer for the new movie.
Yeah.
This kid's journey arguably has probably been the best journey of any hero in an MCU. He's a 60-year-old kid wearing sweatpants and swimming goggles, trying to help around the neighborhood, to meeting the world's greatest hero in Iron Man for that world, and taking him under his wing, developing this relationship, and then losing him, and then having to figure out who you are on your own. You're fighting with the Avengers. You went to space and got snapped.
Yeah.
And now he's coming, then he comes back, and now, guess what? He's getting introduced to a world where guess what? Your world's not just the only world. His journey, and I think Far From Home is a pivotal point in his growth as a character. And, as good of a movie Guardians Volume 2 is, and, all the stuff with the Avengers, in Yondu and all that is great. I thought I love Kurt Russell, and I thought Ego, the way they changed the character of Ego, it's fantastic.
I think there's no better person to be cast as a character named Ego
than Kurt Russell. Yeah, 100%.
It's fantastic. If you've seen Big Trouble in Little China, he's the perfect actor
Absolutely.
to be cast as a godlike character named Ego. It's perfect.
I thought that movie built upon what was established in the first Guardians and everything very, very well.
Yeah.
Like, and then you have like the invisible.
Yeah.
Like,
oh God. That scene was so good.
Invisible. I think that's in Infinity War.
Is it?
I don't think that's
Is it
even
in Infinity War?
Yeah. No, because that's when Gamora's telling Star-Lord that she may have to be killed.
Oh yes, yeah, you are right.
Yeah.
And,
Right.
like the him busting the balls on Mantis.
It all melds.
Because it's all one story, you know.
It's all one story.
But Guardians is a great movie, but I feel like Far From Home is the superior of these two just because of everything it does for Peter Parker's character. Everything it established, the outing at the end, like just establishing everything. I feel like it's the better movie of these two.
Okay, so how do you feel then? Would you go?
Have I swayed your opinion at all?
You swayed it a little bit. I would say, just for the, and this is my last statement on Far From Home for this. I think that the big issue that wins Volume 2 for me is there's a more connection with the villain and the hero, whereas I feel like Far From Home, and this is the same issue with Homecoming, so far MCU Spider-Man has not had a villain for his own. It's a lot of just people having grudges against Tony, and then that falls onto him somehow. It's
the sins of the father. Well,
I guess that's a good point. That's a good point. I think I'm excited for the next Spider-Man outing, considering that's going to be people who hate Spider-Man.
What's the name of that again?
No Way Home.
No Way Home.
Yeah.
I was like, I know it's a home thing.
And I'm actually more excited about No Way Home now too, with the end scene from Venom 2.
Yeah. Oh yes.
I haven't seen it.
I haven't seen it either, but like I had the after credit scene spoiled, and I'm going to spoil it for you.
I did no, don't spoil it for me. Come on.
But I know how much you love spoilers.
I know. You know I hate spoilers.
Okay, I won't spoil it for you.
I will stab you to death with this marker.
I'll just let you know that the Venom movies are now MCU movies.
Well, I was always hoping that they were going to be, and even when we had the preview, just the preview alone for Morbius,
where you had
Michael Keaton's in it,
right?
Like, you know what I mean? So I'm like,
so they kind of
these movies are connected because they're the Sony Marvel movies. And now you have an MCU,
but now
character
it makes more sense
already in it.
So once you find out whatever the reveal is, and actually, maybe sometime this week you and I can go see Venom because I haven't seen it yet.
I can't this week because it's my big week. It's my long week, but I can't next week. I got plenty of time.
It's a fun time. It's a real fun time.
I can't wait.
That's
Carnage.
That's what I've heard.
I do. And I love Carnage, and I love Woody Harrelson. So the fact that Woody Harrelson is Carnage,
this movie
is even better to me.
Because with Adrian Toomes being in Morbius, the ending of this movie, I think, will explain why Morbius keeps being delayed. I don't think there was an issue with the movie itself.
No.
It's you need the setup from what happens in Venom 2 for Morbius to work in the MCU as a whole. But so he's going Volume 2.
I would go Volume 2.
I'm going Spider-Man. Where you?
I gotta be the tiebreaker. Okay, so I'm gonna say this.
This is the first real tiebreaker we've had in this.
I'm gonna go because I'm gonna click this over. I don't think my choice matters.
Okay.
Because I don't.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, no.
Ultimately, for round two,
I think everybody who watches the show knows that I don't think anything you say actually really matters.
But I'm actually going to go. If you're going to look at it like a gauge, I'm going to go just like Far From Home.
My man.
Fair enough.
Just a tiny. Enough. I mean, literally, if it was like up against the first Guardians, nope.
Yeah.
No, you know what I mean? Like it wouldn't happen. But for these two against each other, I would say Far From Home. I actually agree with everything that you say about it. I agree and I understand.
Way to be a politician.
I felt kind of the same thing. I'm like, while I wanted him to the end scene where he's trying to design his thing, I wanted him to step a little more into the creator role, because they're like you said, they're essentially setting him up to be the Iron Man of the quote unquote Iron Man style character. It's like, yes, he's Spider-Man, but he's going to be that type of character in the rest of the Avengers.
See, and what I think you're going to
that's what
see.
I'm not excited about. Though.
See, what I think you're going to see, kind of like what you're saying, but I think you're going to see him play the mentor role for the young Avengers that they're setting.
I hope so. I hope.
I think that's very, very cool with him really being almost like the same age as these kids, but he's got a little bit more experience.
He's got the experience.
He was the kid that went to space with Iron Man. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then you got like,
I think him and Sam are going to be able to play very well off of each other, considering their introduction to each other in Civil War. Like, he was like kicking the crap out of him and everything. But now when they have to
work together,
they're going to have to work together later on. I think that's going to be really good.
All right. So next we have, in my opinion,
the best Thor movie. Flat out.
Like the movie that saved that character.
Yeah.
Like Ragnarok, and like I am a big fan of the Planet Hulk storyline.
Man.
And like it kind of sucks just because of rights issues. They couldn't do a true Planet Hulk movie because there's so much that was left on the table with that. But he, like Taika Waititi, like I said earlier, found the perfect way to use Chris Hemsworth. And as much as I thought Ant-Man and Wasp was a great flick,
it's good. It's super good. I like Evangeline Lilly way more in this movie.
Oh, 100%.
Way more. Just from like her look alone, I felt was more,
I very much enjoy
was more
her look.
It was way better. It was less, because like even her look in the first one was slightly off-putting. Like I felt like they wanted you to think that she was like a complete bitch. You know what I mean? And that like you weren't supposed to like her at all. And then here she comes in the second one. Not only is she awesome, and then you see her in like Endgame and everything, and it's like she's really awesome at it, and she's a good actress, and and she was done much better in the second one, and hopefully from then on she'll continue to be. And I blame it more on the writing in the first one than
there was a lot of issues with that first one, because it was originally Edgar Wright that did the movie, but then he ended up through pre-production had issues with Marvel, so it was a rewritten Edgar Wright script directed by someone else that had come in and changed things on it.
Now, lucky it was even good then.
So, like,
when you put it like that.
So my vote is going to be for Ragnarok, because I think Ragnarok. But with Ant-Man and Wasp, kind of like what I said with the first one, where using Scott Lang instead of Hank Pym, but building upon that, like Michelle Pfeiffer as Janet Van Dyne, like going back and changing her, and like still the way the ending happened with Scott Lang being in the microverse and being literally stuck there to him for 5 minutes, like playing into Infinity War.
Yeah.
Like I thought it was a nice set. I feel like the whole movie was kind of a setup for Infinity War and Endgame.
Yeah.
And I thought it was great. And
it set up the safe. Thor was the same, because Ant-Man ended up being the linchpin.
Right.
You know what I mean? Which was genius. It's like,
Ragnarok,
okay, what are we going to do with Ant-Man? Ant-Man is the reason everyone's alive.
Actually,
you know what I mean?
That rat is the reason.
The rat is the real reason.
That's true.
But Ragnarok is a movie it's probably one of the movies I've watched.
I've rewatched
the most,
it so many
and
times.
It hits the feels like when Odin dies.
Yeah.
It hits all the comedy beats. It hits the action beats. And
it's, again, to go...
We're all going Ragnarok, right?
We're all going Ragnarok. But for it to be so genius to include, like, the death of Odin, the introduction of Hela, and the fact that he isn't the only son or the only child of Odin.
Yeah.
The use of the Planet Hulk story.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Just and then having the Valkyrie, and it's just like it used so much without having, and I use this term a lot when I talk about comic book movies, it used so many different storylines and so many characters without having the Spider-Man 3 effect. Okay, because Spider-Man 3, in my opinion, is the worst comic book movie ever.
Oh.
I hate it. I hate that movie. It's terrible.
You like Spider-Man 3?
I have such a fun time watching that.
Oh,
movie.
I
I have
hate it.
such a fun time
dude,
watching
that
it.
movie.
It's to me
Just
like,
for the only redeeming quality of that whole entire movie is Sandman. Like, he's the only good part in that whole entire movie.
yeah, but even the way he was used.
No,
You know
I'm
what
just
I mean?
saying, like the portrayal of Sandman in that movie was very comic accurate and everything. That's
right.
the only good part of that movie. The rest of it was.
It's too much.
Look,
It's
I
three movies
I
in
went
one.
back when they did midnight showings. I went to the midnight showing of
Yeah.
Spider-Man 3, and very, very like similar to Die Hard 5. I'm like, you got Venom, you got Sand. I was so stoked, and I walked out of that movie theater so goddamn pissed off.
Yeah.
That they ruined everything.
Because Spider-Man 2 was unbelievable.
Correct.
It's still to this day in
Top 5.
all of these
top 5
movies
comic book movies of all time.
is one of
It's
the
up there
best.
with The Dark Knight. It's up there with Batman '89.
so
It's partially
good.
because Sam Raimi didn't want to do Venom, and
Correct.
the studio forced him
Yes.
to do it,
You're
and
right.
so
So then they
that
should have
it
just
caused a
done
whole
Venom.
lot of
Right.
thing.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So then they should have just done Venom, and they should have done Venom and Sandman, or Venom and New Goblin, but not
Yeah,
all three. It
that was the
too
big
much,
issue.
and that was the downfall, and it was just too much, and it killed the movie, in my opinion.
So Avengers versus Iron Man 2. This is easy for me.
I think it's pretty easy for the next couple.
Yeah. See what happens. I mean, I know you've watched the show before, but
Yeah.
it's like we always spend the most time
In
on,
that first
on that
yeah.
first one, and then the rest of the rest of the show is just like, or the rest
Yeah.
of the show just kind of clicks.
Like I had waited my whole life, and like I'll be very, very honest. As a kid, being a comic book fan was not something you told people.
Right.
Like you weren't wearing your comic book shirts and things. You weren't like
Some people still like, you read comics. I'm
Like,
like, you're almost 40,
like,
and
but like
And?
even in like high school, like that wasn't something that was like talking like where it is now. Like I feel like you and I were born 15 years too late, and like we were ahead of the game on this,
way ahead of the game.
and like seeing them all together.
Yep.
Especially where you like got the teases of it, and I thought the plot was great. I thought everything about this movie hit all the beats, and like that one spinning scene when they're all in New York City. It just you can't.
Yeah.
Moments like that, and like that's what it sucks for like my kids and all these other kids who are coming and watching these movies later on. You are going to miss those original moments. Like
Yeah.
to them, it's like, oh, the MCU, like it's there. It's something
There.
that's established.
To us, it was something completely different. And
To the world, it was something completely
Yeah.
different. Like you took these movies that weren't necessarily sequels to each other, and put them all together and made a damn near perfect movie, in my
something
opinion.
we had been waiting for something like this for so long.
My whole entire life.
You know,
like I got
for them to
teases
do
of it with
correctly.
like the X-Men movies and stuff. We're having
Yeah.
all these, but the way this was done, the way this added to that overall storyline that they were going through in that first saga. You know,
There were so many fan theories too going into those where they were like, oh, because Amazing Spider-Man 1 came out the same year.
Correct.
And there was a whole big thing about how, I wonder if the Avengers will show up in that movie.
Right.
Or whatever. And obviously it didn't happen, but
right.
that
Thankfully,
great. What
as,
a great
as good
time.
as I love those movies, like thankfully it did.
yeah.
So we have first Avenger versus Iron Man. This is easy for me. As much as I love First Avenger, it is not my favorite Captain America movie.
It's not. So
But Iron
I
Man,
would put Iron Man.
like Iron
I'd
Man,
put the first Iron Man
like
over
this
that.
is and like if you everything that it took so much for that movie to be made. Like Jon Favreau wanted RDJ. And I don't know if you guys know who originally was supposed to be Iron Man, but it was supposed to be Tom Cruise.
Yeah, see, that wouldn't have worked.
Can you just imagine in the multiverse, Tom Cruise is out there as like RDJ, and a lot of people don't remember this, especially these younger kids. RDJ had a very, very, we'll say, publicly torrid past with drugs and everything else, being arrested. It was damn near almost impossible for them to insure RDJ for this movie. And Favreau pushed and pushed and pushed. And I am I don't think I could, if I ever met the man, I would hug him and cry into his bosom. Because without
Which you would appreciate, I think.
oh, absolutely. Without
It's very nice.
without RDJ being Tony Stark, because the man embodies that character perfectly.
He really is.
We would not be sitting here having the discussions and the hours and hours of discussions I've had with my friends on these movies. And that Iron Man movie, as simple as that plot is the way it sets everything up for the next 15 years.
Yeah.
Like it's the spark that created the Inferno, and it easily is it's up there. And in my opinion, Iron Man gets that every time.
Yeah, I'd put Iron Man on there. Now, what about you?
I would say, before,
it doesn't matter
before
what you
the
say.
conversation. Before the conversation, I would have said Captain America, but I think there's so much more there with Iron Man that it did for this whole branch of movies. So I feel like that is the right choice here.
And this sucks for me because I do love Civil War. Okay, but Civil War versus Endgame. And so
It's almost not fair.
I'm gonna give you a little story about Endgame. So I went to Thursday's showing, and the first showing they had was at 6:00.
Oh God.
Me and my oldest were at the movie theater at 4:45. We sat in there, and my oldest he reminds me very, very much of Tom Holland's Peter Parker, and the movie itself, for being as long as it is, you don't feel it being as long as it is.
No.
In that last, and I don't know, that whole last bit, the whole fight, that's 45 minutes long.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
And when I'm bored, or if I want to watch something that's going to make me go through the whole spectrum of my emotions, I will go and I will watch that 45 minutes. Because you have depressed Thor finally in his Asgardian, big and tall men armor. You have Tony and you have Steve. You have the three after everybody else just got messed up. Okay? And you have the three of them facing off against this prick that they've already killed because he's destroyed half the people that they love and care about, who's got all these ships, and he's going to do it again. But this time he's destroying everything.
Right.
And you had, that 45 minutes alone, the rest of the movie is awesome. The whole plot, the time heist, everything is great about the movie. But, I'm just, this last 45 minutes, you have the three original big hitters.
The big three.
Knocking about. And let me tell you, the way the crowd erupted, you have Thanos with this thing about to cut into fat Thor, and you see the hammer come, but it goes past Thor. And you have...
So awesome.
You have Steve Rogers with the hammer and going boom, blasting Thanos. But then after all the exchange and everything, everybody else is down. Thanos' army is coming.
Cap's shield is broken.
Cap's shield is demolished, and in perfect Steve Rogers fashion, because we all know he can do this all day.
Mm-hmm.
He gets up, he looks upon the impending doom on him, straps the shield on, starts stumbling forward, and then you hear, and he pauses, and he goes, "Sam?" And then you hear very, very loudly, "Cap on your left," which is a throwback to Winter Soldier.
Mm-hmm.
And then Doctor Strange portal opens up, and you see the most gangster king in the world, T'Challa, stroll through. Falcon flies through. More portals are opening up, and Cap realizes, "Yo, we got this shit."
Mm-hmm.
And then, and I'm gonna be very, very honest with you. Peter Parker swinging through, I'm starting to get teary. Okay. And then something I've waited for since I was 7, 8 years old. You have everybody back. You hear, I'm literally getting goosebumps right now. Just thinking about it. Avengers.
Because they tease that in Ultron. He doesn't say it.
Right. Assemble. And in a very, very minute period of time, you go from complete impending doom to I think we're gonna win this.
Yeah.
And you have, and you talk about splash pages. You have a comic book splash page going on.
You even got Howard the Duck running in.
Like, dude,
yeah.
like, and that whole fight scene, everything leading up to, in my opinion, one of the greatest endings of all time.
Yeah.
In cinematic history, if not the, because talk about bookends, holy shit. But you have and when Peter Parker comes down,
Oh God!
after he's Mr. Stark, I don't know what happened. Like that's my kid who's sitting next to me,
Yep.
and I lose my mind, and it's waterworks. And my
Yeah.
kid's, Dad, you okay? Yeah, shut up, I love you. Like I lose it. Like the emotional roller coaster that this movie put me on. Like and like he's alive. Like Peter's alive, and RDJ, who has been very, very just like sarcastic and emotionally distant to him, grabs him
Just
and
hugs
holds him.
Yep.
And like someday when and if you have kids, you will understand there are things that happen to you in life where you just want to grab your kids sometimes and hold them a little bit closer.
Yeah.
And this man just spent 5 years. Losing Peter Parker was his greatest failure.
Staring at
Not
that
being
picture,
able,
too.
and now he has a second chance.
Yeah.
And I really, really do believe that was why he did what he did.
Right.
Because he did not want to fail his son again.
Yeah.
Because that's what he looked at Peter as. And then when you have, like, in the fights, I could talk for hours about it, and we have limited time. But when you have Thanos repeat that, I am inevitable line, and then him
Yeah.
and realizing he doesn't have the stone. And you have Tony Stark repeat the line he ended that first Iron Man movie with, I am Iron Man. Goddamn right you are.
Yeah.
Like, that snap,
Yeah.
it just, it's perfect. Like, on so many levels, like, and I just sat here for 2.5 hours, and I'm here, and I'm still in this movie. I have not faltered. I have not gone to the bathroom. I have not gone and get snacks. I have been in this ride, seatbelt in, going 85 miles an hour this whole time. And then this happens, and it's perfect. It's perfect. And then everybody's reaction to it. And then you have the funeral scene. And, like, and everybody is just distraught. Like, they've lost him. They've lost Nat. Like, but the sacrifice was worth it.
Right.
Losing the few for the greater good. And that's everything they've always stood for. Like, Tony finally got to save the world from that threat that he has always just been building up to trying to do.
Right.
So, like, as great as Civil War, we ranted and raved about it. Civil War,
It just doesn't compare.
It-
you
really
can't
doesn't.
compare to it. And I'm
Yeah.
sorry, I just went on a rant for 10 minutes
No.
and didn't let you guys talk.
Yeah, no, but it's fine because you said a lot of what we were gonna say. I think, I
Like-
mean, at least what I was gonna say about it,
Yeah.
anyways. Casey, I don't know if you had a lot of.
The only thing I
things to
would
really say
say
about it.
to add to that was that, I mean, like you said, Endgame is almost a 3 hour, more than 3
Almost.
hours.
It's like 2 hours and 40
Yeah,
Yeah,
something
it's
like that.
minutes,
almost
I think.
3 hours.
Almost 3 hour movie. You're sitting there, it does not feel like that. Not only is it keeping you entertained for that whole entire runtime, but it's also bookending this entire saga that has just, I mean, it was like what, at that point, 20 movies or something like that? Or
20 it was 20. The 21st movie, I believe.
yeah,
was the
so like
21st
the
movie.
20 movies before that it's also
11
all
years.
tying
11
together.
years worth
Yeah.
of.
That is, I mean,
And they
if any
didn't
movie was going
botch
to beat
the-
Civil War, it's
They
that
didn't
movie.
botch the ending. Like, they're.
No.
uh,
And one thing that happened I felt everything that you said exactly how you said it about it, and you as well. But then, so I went to the movies with my dad to see this, like I did a lot of these movies, and I had a theory that we didn't before the preview for it even came out, that the reason there was we didn't see Hawkeye at all is because he was just chilling with his family, and then that maybe
Yes.
bringing him back in was going to be like, is his whole family gone? So when it opened up and it was on the farm, right, it's dead quiet, and I went, no. Like, I literally yelled no, because I didn't want to see that.
Yeah.
I didn't want to see him go and do something, turn around, and his entire family turn to dust. I didn't want to see that, and I knew I was going to see that, and like I yelled no, and there a few people throughout the theater laughed because I was in like one of the front 2 rows at Marquee, so I was like sitting back like this. And my dad was even like, "What?" I was like, "I'm gonna turn to dust, Dad." And he's like, "What?" And then it happened, and then it was just, and so that pulled you in with that part of it too.
And you're right.
There's just so many things that got you in the feels with this movie.
Nobody talks about it, but the one scene that made me really sad, and it's right in the beginning of the movie, is when Rocket goes and like holds hands with Gamora's sister Nebula.
Yeah.
Nobody brings that scene up. But that is heartbreaking.
Yeah.
He's lost everybody.
They've lost everybody.
Like they're the only 2 of the Guardians left.
You know, I loved the fact personally that things were so
dour,
blown out, and things were so crazy that however long that they were out there before Captain Marvel brought them back, that it was just Iron Man and Nebula.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. Like
2 of the most random characters.
Who would you? It's like you're gonna watch, like, even like if you watch just into the very first Guardians, and you're like, oh yeah, by the way, by the end of this movie, or in the beginning of this movie, the only people that are gonna be on this spaceship alone by themselves, because a bunch of people are gonna die, is Iron Man and Nebula. And you'd be like, how?
Yeah,
how are they gonna do that?
Right.
Watch the movies and you see how it happens. It's pure insanity. And in my opinion, it's so genius, and Endgame was it's so good. It's so good.
So Age of Ultron versus Guardians of the Galaxy. Oh no, wait, Doctor Strange versus Homecoming.
Yeah, we forgot. Yeah,
I'm going Homecoming. Like I love Homecoming. Nothing against your boy Steve, but Homecoming, giving Peter Parker his solo movie, him losing the suit, all that, everything there. I love the reinvention of Vulture, and I love the fact that they were pushing Spider-Man to be the neighborhood Spider-Man. Like, you have the tease of Shocker, or not Shocker, Prowler in there with Donnell Glover and for Miles Morales, so that like that little seed's been set up to be plucked later on down the road. Everything about Homecoming, I thought it was a great movie.
I think Homecoming is great. I would also pick it over Doctor Strange. The only thing that I would say is a negative in my eyes, and this is a very small thing, I think that the MCU is underutilizing Aunt May as a character.
I'd like to use Aunt May for a lot of different things.
Yeah, well, that's
never thought that statement come out my mouth, but, when Marissa Tomei,
Marissa Tomei, everyone's loved Marissa Tomei since My Cousin Vinny. So
Aunt May in the comics is a very interesting character, and she does a lot consoling Peter and helping him make his decisions and things like that. And I feel like so far in the MCU, she's been nothing but a kind of a joke character. That she's pretty now. That's kind of just all she is.
And everyone's gonna hit on her.
Yeah, and that's probably my only complaint with that movie. But I love the movie otherwise.
Yeah.
So yeah, Age of Ultron versus Guardians of the Galaxy. Age of Ultron is my least favorite Avengers movie. I feel like
I would also say that it's my least favorite Avengers movie.
But it's a great movie.
Love it far more than I like. I know a lot of people have a gripe because they don't feel that Ultron was used. Because, like, everyone, the only complaint I hear about it is that, like, Ultron is supposed to be such a big and bad and, like, terrible character.
But he is.
Because he is. And I don't understand if anyone has watched the What If, you finally get that multiversal
the true Age of Ultron kind of scenario you get with that.
So, but it, again, it was so great. It was the only movie I felt that did justice for the Vision. Obviously, I love Paul Bettany, and I have since A Knight's Tale. So
the funny thing about
the fact
him,
that he was not only the voice of Jarvis, but then he got to actually be.
So do you know who his wife? You know who his wife is?
In Paul Bettany?
Yes, in real life.
No, actually, I don't.
Jennifer Connelly.
Oh. I didn't know.
Do you know
I don't pay attention to.
Do you know who the voice? But listen, do you know who the voice of Peter's suit is? Jennifer Connelly.
Oh, Friday.
So he's Jarvis and she's Friday. They're both the voices of the suits.
Yeah.
So like that was like an inside Easter egg from back to Homecoming. Age of Ultron. I'm going to pick Guardians, but Age of Ultron introduces and sets up a lot of things. You got the Hulkbuster armor. You see where Ulysses S. Claw loses his hand. You have Ultron himself. That scene where they're in the church, you have Wanda and Quicksilver. That scene in the church, I think it is fantastic. The fight scene in the beginning was great. It didn't get me as much as all the other Avengers movies got me.
Right.
And so I'm going Guardians.
I would give it to Guardians, although I think that Ultron is a super fun movie. And without that, Paul Bettany, I don't think I don't know if you've ever heard the story about what happened with him. Before that movie came out.
I just heard that.
Yeah. Before the movie came out, he had this big blowout with some Hollywood producer, and the producer's yelling at him on the street saying you're never going to work again in Hollywood, all that. So he's sitting on this road or whatever I think it's Hollywood Boulevard. He was sitting on, and he's just sitting there contemplating, is he ever going to work in the movies again? And that's the moment that his phone rang, and Joss Whedon said, "Would you like to come in and talk?" And I think he was talking about becoming the Vision, which is crazy.
Yeah.
But no.
And I don't know. I can't imagine personally the balls of anyone who would look at somebody who's an actor like. I don't care about tennis, but Wimbledon was a good movie. You know what I mean? Because he was fantastic, and you know what I mean. And it was the only reason. It was the only reason I watched it. He's so good. I would also put Guardians over just because
Guardians is just that.
I wasn't expecting anything from Guardians.
Right.
We got what we got, and because of the first Avengers, and then everything else in Phase 2, and then here's Age of Ultron.
Right.
I was expecting. While I love it and I watch it, I try to watch it a lot because I feel like I watched all the other ones more, and then I was like, why am I not watching Ultron? It was still a good movie, because I still do think it was a good movie, but I'm hard pressed to put it over Guardians of the Galaxy, because I do think if you were to rank all 4 Avengers movies alone, it would be at the bottom. So.
Yeah.
So I got about 10 minutes here, so I don't want to rush us through, but so Iron Man 3 versus Winter Soldier.
I think this is the easiest choice.
I would say Winter Soldier.
Winter Soldier
is it's probably my favorite spy movie.
What hasn't been said about this?
Okay, so quick story. Now Avengers had come out, obviously.
Yeah.
Me and my dad go to see this movie. I come walking out. I'm one of the last people that walks out of the theater because I don't like bumping elbows with people. I walk out and I'm still just absorbing the movie, and I walk out and I'm standing there. I was at the Rome Theater, the big one in the Rome Theater, and Joe was the second or third person in line. He goes, "Yo, Garrett!" I turn. I go, "Oh, what's up?" And he goes, "How was it?" And I went, "It's better than Avengers."
Yeah.
And everyone in the line went,
"What?"
I went, "That's all I'm saying." And I just left because I don't like spoilers, and I don't want to say anything, and I hate hype. Because another quick hype story is everyone told me that I needed to go see Superbad because it was the funniest movie ever made, and then I went and saw it, and I was like, oh, "It's funny."
But it's not.
I don't think it's the funniest movie ever made. Now, if you would have said you have to go see Superbad and don't say anything else, I probably would have died laughing.
Right.
I love it now more because I watched it, didn't watch it for a decade, and then watched it again and was like, "Oh my god, this movie's hilarious."
Winter Soldier it really, in my opinion, the introduction of Falcon, the Hydra being behind the scenes of S.H.I.E.L.D.
It changed the TV show that was out at the time.
Absolutely. And
it was so good.
I think even more so than in Avengers, it really gave it established Steve as a character, because he had the moral choice of following orders or doing what was right.
Right.
And at the end of the day, and it ties back in the first Avenger, when the Doctor tells Steve why he would be the perfect Captain America, it's not because he's a perfect soldier. It's because he's a good man. And that's just reiterated here. Infinity War versus Far From Home. I'm not even going to ask you guys because I already know. Infinity War was one of the most heartbreaking movies I've ever seen.
Yep.
But like I said to Casey yesterday, with the movie was over, the credits ran, the lights came on, and everyone was like, and I looked like that gif of what's his name of Willem Dafoe. I was like, yes, because we finally got a comic book movie that ended like a comic book. Because if you read comic books, sometimes it rips your heart out. It makes you wait a month to find out what happened afterwards. Okay, so now we had we had over a decade. We had a decade's worth of movies that were good, got you in the feels, did all this different stuff. But this one ripped your heart out and left you hanging for a year. Right. I mean, you even got 2 movies in between that didn't really help. No. You know what I mean? They they were like putting a bandage on an axe wound to your chest.
Yeah, absolutely.
It was worthless. So I know you're a big Infinity War guy. So
Infinity War is probably I would say my favorite MCU movie.
Yeah. So
So
now
Ragnarok versus Black Panther. All right, I love Ragnarok. I love Ragnarok. Okay, but I just have 2 words for the both of you.
Yeah,
Wakanda forever.
Forever.
You that movie, especially again Black Panther being a B kind of character. Chadwick Boseman, God rest his soul, embodied it. And then you had Michael B. Jordan playing one of the best villains for being just a human in it. Killmonger was fantastic.
Genius.
And the way they portrayed Wakanda, everything they added with the Black Panther mythos and everything, the technology, it's amazing movie. It really is a masterpiece. And
it's incredibly rewatchable as well.
Oh, dude, I've watched it so many times.
Black Panther is just...
Whenever an occasion comes up where I am question, maybe I'll throw on an MCU movie or something. It's always Black Panther. It's all I love.
So that's gonna be your vote.
That would be my vote.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So we got our Elite 8 here, and we've talked about them.
Mm-hmm.
We know Avengers versus Iron Man. The first
I gotta
movie,
go Avengers.
Yeah, Avengers.
And I'm there with you. As much as I love Iron Man, Avengers puts everything together.
And I'm also gonna while you're up, I'm going Endgame over Homecoming.
I would go Endgame over Homecoming.
100%.
All right, so then
Guardians versus Winter Soldier. I already
It's Winter Soldier.
You know what? You've outnumbered me on it. I'll go with it. I would have put Guardians over it.
Really?
I would have. Yeah.
You go Guardians over Winter Soldier.
Guardians. I knew no character in that entire thing, and I walked out of the theater and I had cried during the scene when Groot goes, "We are Groot."
Oh yeah.
The
music hits perfectly. That made me feel something for characters that I just now understood and ever heard of.
Right.
So I hold
That's
that movie
a
to
really
great regard.
good point.
Yeah.
So
That's a good point you make.
Yeah.
But for me,
I get it.
Still Winter Soldier.
Yeah, I get it.
Infinity War versus Black Panther.
Infinity War.
Infinity War.
Yeah. Okay, so our final 4 are 3 of the 4 Avengers movies.
Yep.
And Winter Soldier, which is
okay,
one of my favorites.
So are we gonna go Endgame over Avengers?
I would go Endgame over Avengers.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So on the left side, we got Endgame winning the left side of the board, and you're going.
I'm going Infinity War.
You're going. Infinity
I would go Infinity War over it as well.
I am going Infinity War.
But you know what though? This is good though because we're talking about the last 2 movies. These 2 movies are one half of
they're
the
both
same
coin.
Of the same piece.
It shows you the Russo brothers are just
the Russo brothers.
I mean, 3 out of the 4 are the Russos.
Honestly.
Yeah.
So my vote, and I loved Infinity War. Infinity War made me cry, but
Endgame also made you cry.
Well, I'm about to get into that. But Endgame made everything right. Everything all the bad stuff that happened in Infinity War, even though
it made it made everything right to the degree to where at one point before either of these movies came out, I had a whole theory written out that Iron Man was the greatest villain in the MCU.
And I actually had something very similar.
No, for real, think about it. His hubris creates the bad guys in the first couple movies.
I guess you're right. Yeah.
And all of the Spider-Man villains. He literally creates Ultron, and then in Civil War, it's like, oh, I messed up and we dropped a city on people, so everyone better pay up.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like,
Oh, yeah,
you know what I
you're
mean?
right.
Like, he did all this stuff. So, like, in my opinion, I never swear on my shows. He fucking better have died. You know what I mean? And no, don't get me wrong. I cried. I still cry. When he hugged Spider-Man, I cried. When he died, when Peter was talking to him, trying to like, you know, shake him out of the when Pepper, you know, told him that he could rest. Oh my God.
That
Are you kidding me? It's don't get me wrong. It's
So
great.
what's your vote?
So are you Endgame?
I'm Endgame.
In your Infinity War, right?
Yeah.
I hate it when I have to choose the winner. I have to go Endgame.
Yeah, fair enough.
I have to. Like again, I give both of these movies their due. I think Infinity War, like I said, it's the only comic book movie to end like a comic book, and that is amazing. That's fantastic. It gave a lot of good. It gave a lot of good moments. The Wakanda battle.
It's all in one day as well.
Yeah.
All of that takes place in one day.
Yeah.
Which is crazy, man.
It's so, yeah, exactly. But Endgame just had much more feels stuff to it. The jumping the 5 years, I think was
Really, and
brilliant.
like Tony actually had a family.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
like and he gave all that
jump,
up. Like,
you know?
yeah.
The 5-year jump, I think, was one of the smarter ideas that they did.
So
I didn't know they were going to do
Endgame
that.
takes the MCU.
Yeah, it's the ultimate snap survivor.
Yeah, this was fun.
This was fun.
This was fun.
I definitely want to have you back on, Casey.
Yeah. Hopefully real soon. I have an idea for the next one. I know we were talking about doing another one. I'm gonna make sure. I'm not even gonna announce it yet. I just want to make sure that the next one is for sure gonna happen, and then we'll announce it. Because this was one we decided to throw up real quick out of nowhere. But so tune into us next week.
Wrestle Fandom Radio.
Wrestle Fandom Radio. Hopefully we'll have some good stuff on. And either way, there's always
Dippin Donuts, Seasonal Sports, Rockin' Horse Tattoo.
Thank you,
Casey. Again, thank you for being on here. Because like
having me.
honestly, like some weeks when it's just me and Garrett, like I almost want to hurt myself just having to have to deal with him. And it's nice that
imagine how I feel, Casey.
You should feel honored being the presence of greatness.
He's the champ. Haven't you heard?
Yeah,
Casey, come on.
Exactly. The CHAMP of the D, baby.
Oh, Casey, don't hurt me. Don't hurt my feelings.
So tune in next week, Wrestle Fandom Radio. It should be at noon, as far as we know right now.
As far as we know.
As far as we know
should
right
be
now.
At noon.
And everybody, thanks for tuning in.
Thank you.
I'm very glad that we haven't had any technical issues this week, Garrett.
Yeah, it's not me, man. I don't know what to tell you. It wasn't me.
Whatever.
All right?
All right.
All right.
Take it easy, guys.